Whispers of the Autumn Wind. In a quiet village nestled between rolling hills and amber-colored forests, autumn painted the world with strokes of gold and crimson. It was in this season that Emma returned home after 6 long years abroad. The girl who once ran through the orchards barefoot had become a successful interior designer in London, but her heart never truly left the village of Elmridge. She came back to care for her aging grandmother, who still lived in the same cozy cottage by the lake. Life moved slowly here, gentle, rhythmic, and familiar. And yet, something had changed. Or rather, someone. Nathan. Emma remembered him as the shy boy who sat in the back of the class, always scribbling in a sketchbook. But the Nathan she met again at the village harvest festival was tall, quiet, and radiated a calm warmth. He had grown into a talented artist, now running his own workshop and teaching local children how to paint. Their paths crossed again and again. At the bakery, the old bookshop, and on winding trails through the autumn woods. Emma admired his gentle spirit and the way he saw beauty in the smallest things. Nathan, in turn, was drawn to her energy and the stories she carried from faraway cities. One crisp morning, they found themselves alone by the lake, leaves swirling around them like whispered memories. Nathan pulled out a folded piece of paper from his coat, a drawing he had done years ago. It was of her, sitting under the old elm tree behind the school, sunlight in her hair. "I never stopped drawing you," he said, voice barely louder than the breeze. Emma looked at the sketch, her eyes stinging. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "I didn't think I had the right," he said. "You were always meant for bigger things." "But I was always waiting for a reason to come back," she whispered. That day, the lake reflected more than just the trees. It reflected two hearts finally seeing each other clearly. Over the next weeks, their connection deepened. Emma helped Nathan restore his art studio, and he painted a mural in her grandmother's living room. They spent evenings wrapped in blankets, sipping cider, and dreaming aloud. The village, once a quiet backdrop to their separate lives, now felt like the beginning of a shared story. But reality soon crept in. Emma was offered a high-profile project in Paris, a dream opportunity. The night before her decision, she and Nathan sat beneath the elm tree once more. "I won't ask you to stay," he said, "but I'll never stop hoping you will." Emma looked up at the stars. "What if I'm tired of chasing dreams that don't feel like home?" A long silence stretched between them, filled only with wind and rustling leaves. Then she smiled. "I think I've finally found the dream worth staying for." 2 years later, Emma and Nathan opened an art and design studio together in the village. They named it Whispers, in honor of the autumn wind that once carried them back to each other. And each fall, under a canopy of golden leaves, they celebrated the season that turned a quiet homecoming into a love story that would never end. Whispers of the Tide. In a sleepy coastal village named Windmere, nestled between silver cliffs and the endless sea, lived a young woman named Alara. She ran a small bookshop called the Lighthouse Pages, named after the lighthouse where her grandfather once worked. Every morning, Alara would open her shop just as the first light touched the waves, her fingers brushing across weathered covers and old letters tucked between pages like forgotten memories. Alara loved the sea. It had been her silent companion ever since her parents died in a boating accident when she was 16. She found peace in its rhythm, its constancy, its whispers. One rainy evening in October, as Alara was about to close her shop, the door swung open, and a man stepped in, soaked to the bone. He was tall, with dark hair clinging to his forehead and eyes the color of sea glass. "Sorry," he said, offering a sheepish smile. "I saw the light. Thought maybe I could wait out the storm here?" Alara nodded. "You're welcome to." He introduced himself as Selim. a travel photographer. He had been staying in Windmere to capture the stormy coastline for a new series he was working on. As the rain drummed softly on the windows, he wandered through the aisles, drawn to poetry and old maritime journals. That night was the first of many. Selim began visiting the shop often, sometimes to read, sometimes just to talk. He brought stories of distant lands, of sunrises over deserts, and villages lit by lanterns strung across narrow alleys. In return, Alara shared her quiet world, stories from her books, the legend of the lighthouse keeper who once saved an entire fleet, and the way the tide always pulled her heart a little closer to the edge of the sea. They became close, two souls carried by different winds but anchored by something neither of them fully understood yet. One day, Selim brought Alara an old photograph he'd taken in Greece. It was of a girl, standing alone at the end of a pier, staring out at the water. "She reminded me of you," he said softly. "Even before I met you." Alara didn't reply, but she kept the photograph beside her bed. Months passed, and the seasons turned. The storms grew stronger, and so did their bond. But Selim's work, like the tide, called him elsewhere. "I'm leaving for Norway next week," he told her one quiet morning. Alara nodded. She had known it would happen. But her heart still cracked at the seams. "Then go," she whispered, "but don't forget where the lighthouse is." Selim reached into his coat and handed her a small shell wrapped in a piece of cloth. "I found this in the sand on my first day here. Keep it for me. I'll come back for it." And then he was gone. Winter was long. Letters came, full of warmth and faraway wonder. But slowly, they faded. The last one was from Patagonia, signed with a single line. "Some places become people. And some people become home." A year passed. Then two. Alara kept the bookshop alive, still opening it with the morning light. Still listening to the sea. The shell never left her counter. Then, one spring morning, just as the daffodils bloomed along the coast, she opened the door, and found Selim standing there, a little older, a little wearier, but with the same sea-glass eyes. "I couldn't forget," he said. "And I don't want to keep going without knowing what home really means." Alara smiled, tears welling in her eyes. "You found your way back," she whispered. "No," Selim replied, stepping inside, "I finally stopped drifting." And from that day on, the tide no longer whispered of loneliness, but of love that waited, like the sea, patient and deep.